Hello friends, and welcome back to the layout. Been a while since you've seen me. I've been busy the last couple of years working on a NASA artifact restoration project. That's the subject of another video on the channel. But today's subject is one that strikes fear into our hearts. I gotta move the layout. Yep, that's right, we're moving to a new place. The layout's gonna be disassembled and moved. Luckily, it was designed to be moved, and we're going to find out how well that works. So join me on the adventure as we try to take it apart, move it, and get it back together again. You may recall that the layout is built in sections. There's a 6-foot section on each end and a 3 by 3 foot section there in the corner. It's 3 feet deep. And the 3 sections are bolted together, so it's supposed to come apart. But there's a lot of stuff that needs doing with respect to unhooking electrical wires. They're probably removing a number of the structures because they aren't really secured on the layout very firmly, and so on. Already, if I showed you around in detail, you'd see the rolling stock's all gone. The vehicles are off the layout, and so it started. Luckily, I've got a book. When I built the layout, I recorded all the steps done to put it together. Get this a little closer. In a spreadsheet, step by step, with photos, what was done to put it together. So I just reversed those steps, and we're starting at the other end to take it apart. So hopefully that's going to work. So we'll go on this great adventure, and we'll see how it goes. Here we can see at the left end of the layout, the backdrop that used to cover the left end is already gone. Of course, that just lifts off, takes about 5 seconds. And if we pan around over to the right end, you'll see the same thing has happened there. The backdrop's gone from the right end. Also, I've started taking roofs off the buildings where they're removable. Here you can see the sawmill. The roof's been removed. Gives a good view of the interior, which we don't usually see. It's not so easy to see it from the side with the roof in place. And right here, the coaling tower is gone. The water tank is gone. If you look back at the mine in the background rather, you can see a couple of roofs missing from it. And over here in the logging camp, there's a building with the roof already taken off. So that's the way some of this early work is going to go. And I'm going to hit some wiring pretty soon too. And the other thing to note is everything's put together with screws. If we look up here at the valence, you see it's held on with screws. You can see the screw heads there. And that valence is just made out of styrofoam, so it doesn't weigh anything. But it's held on with a few screws with finishing washers under them. And if we come around to the right-hand end of the layout and look up, you can see the end is the same way. See just a couple of screws holding that piece of foam on. So that should be easy, but knock on wood, nothing's ever as easy as you hope. One other obvious thing to do is to label the legs. You can see there, just some masking tape. And there's a scheme for numbering the corners and which module they're on and so on. But they may not go back the way they came off if you tried it, because the holes may be in the wrong places, slightly. So anyway, labeled the legs. The other piece of prep work I've been working on is making what you see here. These little pieces of wood are like the dummy legs that are going to go on. When the real legs come off, these are going to go on. So the layout sections can be set down on the floor without dragging the stuff that's under the frame on the floor. So one more little detail. Looking at the back of the electronics cabinets, we had 2 power cords connected to the wall. Just unplug them. And see, we've got 4 wires here on a terminal strip that connect the 2 cabinets together. It's the track bus and the programming track leads. And once those are unhooked, The cabinets are ready to roll, except that they've got a quick disconnect right here and one up there in the background that connect it all to the layout. So it's fairly simple unhooking that stuff. Structure removal is in progress for quite a few of the structures now. That requires unhooking electrical wires for the lighting under the layout and then pulling them up through the holes up as the structure is removed. You can see here a few of the structures that are off the layout. And if we take a look at the left-hand side of the layout, you can see a few missing structures. There's one. Here's where the engine house was. Now we can see what's inside there. Anyway, it's a tedious process, but not too complicated. Well, here we see the layout with the buildings removed that are going to be. The sawmill's still there. Of course, it's embedded in epoxy. It's not going anywhere. Most of the other buildings here on the left side are gone. Left the mine in place because that center section that it's on shouldn't have to be tipped very far as it goes out the door. And so I think it's probably good enough. And up here in the log camp area, we've got some lightweight structures still there that are held in place by pins, and they feel like they're going to be okay. The engine house is gone. The engine service facility is gone. Anyway, it's starting to look a little bare, so some progress. Here we see the two electronic cabinets that have been disconnected from the layout using those quick disconnect plugs and unplugged from the wall, and the wires coiled up, stuffed inside, so they're ready to move. The upper end covers at the left and right ends of the layout are the next thing coming off. They're just held on by some screws made of styrofoam. So here's what the left one looks like on. And here's the view of the right hand end with its cover plate now gone. Beginning to see the hidden structure up there. Well, the next thing coming off is these valence covers up here. So here we go. One more screw to go. Well, that was a little tougher than I expected. It was just stuck. Here we see that the main layout lighting has been unplugged and the light bulbs removed. Here we see the lighting valence structures themselves are now removed. So we're making progress. Well, quite a change now. That's the top of my workbench in the right foreground view. And here's the layout, all dark with no lights. And the big thing is now it's been pulled away from the wall. So this is the first time I've seen the back of it in probably 7 or 8 years. And the reason it's pulled away from the wall is there's a bracket holding the pieces of the backdrop together, right where those vertical members are that's closest to the camera. And that needed to be undone before the modules can be pulled apart. So that was the next thing. Well, at this point, with the backdrops disconnected from each other, on the left side anyway, it was time to remove the bolts that hold the left section to the corner module and pull the left section out. And as you can see, that has been accomplished. Just took a little bit of persuasion, but anyway, there we are, coming apart. Well, now that the left module is set free, the next task is to remove that sky that's hanging up above it. And that shouldn't be too hard, because it's just a piece of styrofoam with a little bit of wood bracing, and it just hangs with gravity on those cantilevered beams that stick out from behind the backdrop. You can see them sticking out there. So it should just slide off those cantilevered beams and into my hands. Well, okay, here's that piece of sky now set free. And if we work our way around back to where we can see the layout, there's that left-hand module now with nothing above. So went as planned, all okay. Well, next, the backdrop supports that were the vertical members holding the backdrop were unscrewed from the backdrops and unscrewed from the frame. And the backdrops and the supports were all removed. So here we see the right module minus the backdrop. The corner module and the left module yet to go. So that'll be tomorrow's project. Well, a little more work with the wrench and screwdriver has gotten all of the backdrops, all of the valence and overhead structures off the layout. And as you can see, we got the 3 modules here free and clear. And the next step is going to be to replace these long legs that are on them with the short little dummy legs you saw earlier, so they can be set down in a van for transport. And also so they can get out the door here from the room they're in. So that's the latest coming along. Now here we see the right-hand module halfway through its temporary leg replacement process. Got the short dummy legs at the right end and set it down. And the left end is up in the air waiting for the long legs to get removed. It's a little bit of a tedious process, but anyway, it looks like it's probably going to go okay. Here we see the first module, the right-hand one, with the legs and bracing removed, the temporary 6-inch legs installed, and as you can see, laid down on the floor temporarily. So now it can be tipped on its side and go through doorways and things like that. And you can also get a glimpse here of the quick disconnects that connect the modules together. Well, another day of wrenching has resulted in what you see here. All 3 of the modules are now on their short dummy legs, resting on the floor, except as you see the corner module is tilted up to make more room. So they're ready to move. Yay! I learned that tipping them up and tipping them down, getting the legs off, was really kind of tricky in this confined space. Because anyway, they tended to take more room than their normal dimension as they tipped this way and that way. But so be it. So I think we're finally actually ready to move. Well, the move happened today. And here we are in the new home. Here are the railroad modules, still on the floor with their short little temporary legs. Various other backdrop and sky panels sitting around. So, and there's where it all came in. And for now, here in the closet, got some of the legs and braces there. And some of them here. They're kind of helter-skelter through the house now, wherever they could fit in. And here in another bedroom, a spare, we see more legs and braces. These are the valence and lighting fixtures right there. There's the valence covers there. You see the backside with the pink foam. And a couple of the small backdrop sections here that go in the corner module. So the stuff's scattered all over the place right now. Assembly reawaits. Well, here in the new space, assessing the damage from the move, looks like the bottom line is I've got 4 trees here that fell off the layout, but they still have their pins. And we've got 4 more trees here whose pins got broken. They're just round dowels, or excuse me, toothpicks, round toothpicks, so they can be replaced. So we'll recover the trees. And along the way that the layout moved, exploring the floor space, we found these items lying on the floor. A few detail parts and 4 or 5 figures. So we'll find a home for them too. Other than that, hopefully the layout's in good physical condition. It's still on the floor right now. The next step is going to be to put the legs back on. So just looking around, there it is on the floor. So onward to getting the legs next. Well, another piece of this little moving project I haven't mentioned before is the workbench. It had to move too. And this green framework you see here is the framework for the bench, the workbench. You see this, it's up on its end right now, but it does have wheels under it, which come in handy sometimes. Above that workbench, this green thing here is a set of lights that illuminates it, of course. And so it's separate for the move. And finally, once the workbench is put right, this piece of plywood right here, it actually forms the work surface on top of that framework. So, yep, it had to move too. Well, here is the first leg going back on the layout frame. Only 12 more to go. So it's a little tedious. It'll take a while, but hopefully no problems. Anyway, so far so good. Now with the ends of the layout exposed, as the legs are going on, this is a good time to show you the alignment pins. There's one right there, and there's 2 on each joint, so here's the other one. So those, of course, are used to align the 2 sides or the 2 frames when they get put together finally and bolted together. So they assure a good, consistent, repeatable alignment. So very handy. Well, now here we see the left module up on its legs. So progress has happened today. The wheels really make it handy. On this hard surface floor, it just rolls real easy. So it'll be easy to push the modules together for connection when the time comes. And this might also be a good time to mention the fact that the bolts in the end of the framework here had to be counterbored to make sure the bolt head's flush. Otherwise, of course, the modules couldn't come together. So little details. Well, here's a view out the window of the layout room. Too bad we're going to lose it when the backdrop covers it up, but that's life. Here's a quick look at the legs going up, or rather onto the corner module. See, they got a loose bolt here, so, and a missing diagonal brace on that leg. It's a work in progress right now, but anyway, the legs are coming back on, and hopefully they'll all be standing up pretty soon. And following up, here's that leg on the corner of the corner module with all the braces installed. See, this brace is installed now. Bolts are all tightened up. I might point out, look how these diagonal braces had to be jimmied so they didn't interfere with each other. Maybe you can see that in the video. Without doing that, they would have all run through each other. And now you see the corner module with all the legs attached, all the bolts tightened up. And the height worked out really well to sit the framework on top of my little 4-foot step ladder. And it gave just an inch or two clearance beneath the wheels at the bottom so the legs could go on easily. So that was a good break. That was a morning's work, getting those legs on. Well, similar to the corner module, here we see the right-hand module with 2 of its 4 legs installed, and the end with no legs up on that 4-foot step ladder again. So 2 legs to go. This is a good chance to see the back side of the module. And I want to point out the trees here, that they're sort of half trees. It's not even more than half actually, but they're designed so they fit as flush as they can against the backdrop, so they don't cast shadows on the backdrop. That was the objective of that. And it worked out pretty well with that little forest of trees there, with the back row nestled literally up against the backdrop. So pretty much shadow-free, which I think worked out well. So on to the last 2 legs. Well, now we're making progress. Got all 3 modules up on their legs. They're not bolted together yet because that needs to come a little later, but beginning to look like a railroad now. And it looks like it fits in the room as planned. Just barely though. Anyhow, major progress today. Next up will be backdrops and the overhead supports and the valence lighting. And after that, it'll be wiring stuff. So it's coming along. The next step is to install the backdrop supports and the associated cantilevers that stick out to hold the sky and lighting valence. They were sort of semi-disassembled for transport, so here we see one just about to get reassembled, and that process will be repeated several times to get them all together and then installed on the rear legs of the modules. Now here we're looking at the back side of the right module, and back in the corner of it there you see the first of the backdrop support beams installed. It screws to the leg, a couple of bolts, and at the top you see the cantilever beam sticking out from which the sky panels will hang and the valence lighting system will be hung and installed. So things still to come. Anyway, we'll keep working on these backdrop supports till we get them in. Now here we see the corner module and the right module from the back side with their backdrop supports installed and the corresponding backdrops up in place. So that's what it looks like from the back. These little brass brackets right here are what hold the backdrop framework in place. At the top of the support, there's another one up there. So we're got about half the backdrop supports in and half to go. Well, here, a couple of days later, we see backdrops are up. There's the left module, and here are the corner and right-hand modules. Backdrops in place, and just getting ready to screw together the corner and right-hand modules. And when that happens, of course, the backdrops get joined too. So that's the latest today. And right here is the first bolt going in to connect the modules together. So looks like it may need just a little bit of persuasion with the persuader to go through there, but everything's lined up, so it should go through. Now here we are behind the backdrops up on a ladder at the top where the joint between the corner module and the left module backdrops needs to get this bracket put in there to hold the tops together and in a proper alignment. And there's a little bit of a gap between them. I think maybe we can close that gap with this bracket. Here's the front side of that joint between those two backdrops. Yeah, it closed up at the top pretty well. A little bit of a gap down lower, but I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Now here's a power strip installed on one of the rear legs to carry utility power and probably later the main power into the layout. The only thing plugged into it right now is this other power strip that is just more utility power for the layout. That's on the rear member of the right module. So beginning to work on power just a little bit. And looking once again at the joint between the corner module backdrop and the right module backdrop. There's the top, which we saw before. If you look down at the bottom here, another one of those little brackets is installed just to keep them lined up properly. Now here we see the right and corner modules bolted together. And of course, as we saw, the backdrops are screwed together. And the cantilever beams that stick out that will eventually hold the sky and the lighting valence are all in place. And here on the floor is the first of the sky panels ready to go on. That clamp there means a little bit of repair is going on where the foam delaminated from the wood framework. But as soon as that's fixed, it's going to go on. So here's the first piece of sky now installed. It's over the corner module. Here it is seen from below. And then here's what it looks like on top. See, it just slides back on those cantilever beams and just rests on them. Gravity does the job here. Well, the next thing is to install the sky up here above the left-hand module. And instead of just showing it to you after it's done, today I'm going to actually do it right in front of the camera. And so you can see one task actually being performed. So here we go. And there we are. Got to get the final positioning done and hook up the power cords for those outlets there, which are for the night lights. But that's the way it goes. The next thing after this, the next big thing, will be putting the lighting valence up right in front of it so we can get the main lighting up there. Now here we see all the sky panels in place, and the left module has been snuggled up against the corner module back there. It's not bolted yet, but that's the very next thing, to put the bolts in. And then the joint between the two backdrops right there will be secured. And then the modules will be together. Here's the electrical supply for the main lighting coming over the back of the backdrop and sky. And it's going to get screwed onto the top of the sky thing right there. And pretty soon we'll have lights. And this is for the night lights. See, there's another one down there. So turns out they just sit in there and they're on all the time, although you can't tell unless the main lights are out. Anyway, lighting is coming. And there's the power plug for the right module night lights. Being plugged in to this utility outlet on the bottom of the layout. Well, power is coming to the railroad for the first time. This is the main power strip. Kind of hard to see because it's black. As you can see, it's got lights on. And it's sending power over here to this auxiliary power strip. And we turn it on. And with any luck, the night lights in the right module will be on overhead. And they are on. A little hard to see in the video, but there's two night lights here. And they are actually both on. Maybe a close-up view, you can see it's on. So that's good, we got power. Now here's the right module lighting valence set in place. And it's actually plugged in. The plug in the middle of the screen is it. So we'll put the light bulbs in and see if it works. Now here we see the main right-hand module light bulbs in place. So the time has come to throw the daylight switch and see what happens. And there's the daylight switch right here. Aha. We've got lights. Now we're making progress. Now take a look at these swivel casters that are at the bottom of the legs. I found that when joining the left module to the center module, I had to make a little adjustment here to get the alignment pins between the modules to slip into place without a lot of effort. But it just took a little bit, but nevertheless, probably the difference between being on carpet like it used to be and now being on this flat, level, hard surface floor, which I guess gets much more precise on the leveling. So one more little chore there. And now, after adjusting the height on the casters just a little bit, we got the left module and center module joined together, and there's the bolt in place holding them together. And actually there's another one over here. So screwed together at last. And finally now, with the left module sky attached and the left module itself attached to the corner module, we got the lighting valence up on the left side, and all the lighting's now in. The night lights and the main layout lighting. Just need the front of the valences put on to complete the effect. But anyway, we got full lighting now. Well, after quite a bit of teeth gnashing, got the three modules bolted together. And the main source of the teeth gnashing was trying to get the rail joiners slid into place across the joints here at the module joints. That was quite a job. Quite a bit of reaching too far, really. And no matter how many lights you put on it, they're always in the wrong place to see what you need to see. But I finally got them all in place, so now it's on to a little bit of wiring, and the next big thing is these big black covers that cover the lighting assembly above, basically the valence covers. That's the next thing. Alrighty, so here we go with the next step. We're going to put up the valence cover on the left module. And this is it. As you can hopefully see, it's black. It's styrofoam, doesn't weigh much. And it's got pipe insulation across the bottom to cushion it. Here we go. Well, that's the first of 6 screws, so 5 more to go and it'll be up. So far, so good. Well, now, at this point, we've got the left valence end plate installed. You can see it here. Like everything else on the valence, it's made of styrofoam and doesn't weigh much of anything. And coming around to the right end of the layout, here's the right valence end plate. It's just hanging up there right now by the very first screw. You can see it there. Anyway, just going to install the next 4 screws and it'll be up, and that'll pretty much complete the valence. Well, here we are now under the layout, getting ready to hook up the main electronics cabinets. And it looks like a big mess here, but it's really not so bad, because everything goes through a terminal strip and everything's labeled. And all we've got to do to hook it up to the layout is hook these 2 cables between the boxes. One's a track bus, one's a programming bus. We've got a 10-pin connector that goes to the layout. Here's a 6-pin connector that goes to the layout. And of course, we've got a couple of AC power cords to plug in. But that's all it's going to take to hook it up. And after that, if there's no smoke, we might have DCC power on the track. We'll see. So I'm going to hook it up now and we'll see how it goes. Oh, and a follow-up thought, I might add that the reason the wiring looks so complicated is that there are 2 DC cabs wired into this whole arrangement through switches, so the layout can be DC powered with a selection between 2 cabs. And furthermore, there's a second DCC system wired in here that I used to have, a lens system, in addition to my easy DCC system. And so it's got a bunch of wires here that go to the jacks where the controllers plug in, because it was not wireless. Anyway, there's a good reason why it looks so complicated, but anyway, the wiring's in, never have to touch it or change it, so even though it looks complicated, it's good. Okay, the electronics cabinets are plugged in and all hooked up. So we're going to turn it on and basically do a quote-unquote smoke test here. What we should see is the command station lighting up with some kind of display here. Some flashing lights down here on the power station and the wireless interface. And once that's going, I'm going to flip the switch to turn on the DC power here. And we should get a light here, and the DC voltmeter should show something. Right now, there's nothing on the tracks, so we'll do that next. But we'll just see if it looks normal powered up here. So here we go. We flip the switch on the power strip right here. And we see the command station is coming up. Yep. Down here we got lights on the wireless interface and the booster. And we see we got DCC voltage on the track showing here. And we're turning on the DC transformer for the building lights, and we got DC voltage. All good so far. And here's one of the wireless controllers. We'll turn it on. And it should initialize as it has. So, so far so good. Looks normal. I'll turn that back off again. So I think the smoke test was successful. We'll put a locomotive on the track and see if a sound system comes on next. All right, here we go with the locomotive on the track. A trusty little 060 here. We'll come down and turn the system on again. DCC's initializing. Here's voltage on the track. And I don't know whether you can hear the air pump or not. The volume's set pretty low. But it looks like we're working. We got sound. There's a dynamo and a headlight. And the whistle works. The bell works. Heard the power reverse switching from forward to reverse there. And the chuffs are working. Everything's working. So, good news. I think we're going to be in business here. Well, I've run that locomotive there over every inch of track on the railroad, just kind of making sure everything was working okay, especially the joints, like these between the modules. But it ran smoothly over all of them, so that was good. So it was on to reinstalling structures. And here in the logging camp area, they're all in place. And of course, the tedious part of that is hooking up the wires for the lighting. And here's why. We'll look over here at this one still on the workbench. Quite a few wires coming out the bottom. We got several pairs of wires here for the 12-volt lighting that's inside. And then all the outside lights, these little gooseneck bulbs here, are Woodland Scenic Just Plug systems. And each one of those has a pair of red and black wires, really, really tiny wires. And it starts adding up in the wire count. So anyway, that job is to feed all these wires down through the holes and hook them up to the right thing under the layout. And here's what it looks like on the bottom side. This is under the brewery. These two plastic pipes here, get them in view. Funnel the wires down through the styrofoam. We got heavy 12-volt wires here. And then they got a whole forest, if you can see them, a whole forest of these little tiny LED wires for the Just Plug system. But hopefully, although it's tedious, it'll all get done. So far, it's been working good. Well, we'll finish up the project here. The layout is back together and back in operation. Locomotives are running. All the structures are reinstalled. The wiring is hooked up. Under the layout, as you saw earlier, got the electronics cabinets hooked up and working. And so far, knock on wood, trains traveling over the joints between the modules are running smoothly. That's one of the join lines right there in the middle of the screen. And here is the other one. You can probably make it out. Anyway, all the structure's in place, all the lights are working, and locomotives are alive. So what did we learn from all this? Well, it is possible to move a layout, especially if it's designed to be moved, as this one was. Everything held together with bolts or screws. A record kept of the steps, assembling or disassembling it. But that was pretty important. And almost as important as any other thing, label everything. The legs on the layout are all labeled, which one goes in which corner. The supports, everywhere wiring is disconnected, needs to be labeled. Even if you're pretty sure you can remember what goes where, label it anyway. That's the lesson learned. Had a little bit of damage in the move, lost a couple of trees that fell off or got broken off. I'll be replacing them. I have the trees, they just need a new pin on the bottom. Looking around here on the coaling tower, this back part of the structure got broken off. Simple matter to glue it back on. A few figures fell off. I collected them up and I'm reinstalling them. but not bad really considering. So overall, seems like a successful ending to the project. And so we're back to operations. Thanks for watching, y'all.